The play-by-play voice of the Blue Raiders, Chip Walters, joining BYU Sports Nation. Chip, thanks for repaying the favor for our show.
Not a problem, and really appreciated you coming on our coach's weekly radio show on Monday night.
How'd he do? How'd Spencer do on that?
He did fine. He did fine. I did, and Spencer, you'll have to clue people in on the email I sent you and Ben this morning. Because you do have a tendency to ask about local flavor, which I really appreciate, because whenever and wherever we go, I try to ask the same questions.
Certainly, and I appreciate that list of awesomeness that you sent me. I wish I had enough time to visit all of those places. I'll get to some of them for sure. Now, before BYU and Middle Tennessee actually kick off, I do want to ask, what's the community feel around this game for the Blue Raider Nation?
Well, I think it's, there's a good level of excitement for it, because to give you a very mini history lesson, Middle in particular in the 80s and 90s was one of the handful of really good, what used to be called and what I still call 1AA football powers.
Yes.
You had in the East, you had Middle and Eastern Kentucky and Georgia Southern and Marshall, and out West you had Boise was a biggie. So, and there was a thought, okay, we need to go to the next level. So, Middle made the transition. This is the 16th year of being in 1A. And our scheduling has been able. I mean, those first few years, you're going on the road anywhere, anytime to whoever, and now our scheduling has gotten stronger at home. We've had Georgia Tech here, we've had Minnesota here, we've had Virginia here, we've had Mississippi State here. Now, and now you guys are coming in, which there is, like they said, there's a really nice level of excitement. We're going to have a really nice crowd on Saturday, and the weather's going to be really nice. It's going to be a little chilly, but it's going to be beautiful here.
Chip, is there a perception that because BYU's lost 4 in a row, they're more vulnerable right now to actually pull off an upset and win?
I think it would be that way for anybody. The thing is that perception may be there with fans. I don't think it's there with our coaches and players, because they were all involved in the game a year ago, and they understand, what. It's kind of like one of the things in particular that you and I talked about the other night was that BYU is a really unique program, because here you have on your 105-man roster a lot of really mature guys, both mentally and physically, and it's you take on these guys at the skill positions, and you look along that offensive line and how big they are, but they can all run. They've had some tough things go their way, nothing more tougher than Taysom Hill's injury. But also, like you and I talked about the other night, is that to me, one of the most key losses from a year ago was Kyle Van Noy. I just thought he disrupted so much of what we tried to do a year ago.
Sports director of the Tennessee Radio Network for 5 years, and now in his 23rd season at Middle Tennessee, play-by-play specialist Chip Walters on BYU Sports Nation. Coach Stockstill told us something very interesting yesterday. He said he felt like BYU is the most storied program to ever play in Murfreesboro. You just brought up the fact they've had teams like Mississippi State come in and Virginia, some good football teams. Is that a fair assessment by Coach Stockstill to put that designation on BYU?
I would bracket them probably with Georgia Tech.
Okay,
that's fair.
Just as the most storied programs to have played here. BYU has a national championship. Mississippi State does not have one yet. They
might this year.
They're ranked number 1. Yeah, this could be the year for it. But I would say those would be the two. Absolutely.
When you look at Middle Tennessee, a couple guys stick out, but who are the playmakers that fans should know about in preparation for the game on Saturday?
Well, interesting that because both teams are so different than they were a year ago. Because you look at the losses on BYU with Hill's injury and Van Noy being gone. On the defensive side, well, Middle Tennessee has a completely different look at quarterback this year. Logan Kilgore graduated, record-setting quarterback here. And Austin Grammer, Middle's quarterback now, is a little bit remindful of Taysom Hill because he does have to be accounted for in the run game, and he's already had a couple of 100-plus yard rushing games. He's thrown for 200 yards plus in all but one of his starts. So he's a real key on offense. I think that's where you have to start with Middle. Middle runs the spread offense, but they like to run the power run game out of it. And that has been, when they have been successful, and they've won 16 out of their last 21 conference games, they have been successful because they've been able to run the football. Defensively, Kevin Byard is the standout. Kevin he has 14 career interceptions. Leighton Gaskew is a great third down specialist. He has 21 career sacks. T.T. Barber, outside linebacker, has 6 interceptions as a linebacker,
wow,
but has just really made a lot of plays this year. So those are some names. In the run game, Shane Tucker wears number 1, but also is a really good pass catcher out of the backfield. Reggie Watley, he is kind of he has over 3,500 career all-purpose yards, so he's a guy that touches it a lot, both in special teams and also from the running back position. So those are a few names to remember.
Chip Walters, play-by-play voice of the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders on BYU Sports Nation, joining us live from the great state of Tennessee. Chip, let's talk about the success that Middle Tennessee has had. You mentioned 16 of 21 games they've won in conference. They've won 7 in a row at home. Who have they beaten during that 7-game streak that makes you think, you know what, they have a chance to knock out BYU on Saturday?
Well, I think that when you look back at that over the last couple of years, it's been that 7-game streak includes conference games as well as a couple of non-conference matchups, and one being Savannah State, and that wouldn't necessarily be the one that would give you that type of thought, because
sure.
But you guys will see Savannah State later.
That's right.
In the season, and if you haven't gotten well by then, you will on that day. I'll put that out there.
70 plus. Let's go.
So, but it's just that I think really the conference games, when you look at wins against Marshall a year ago, 51-49. Western Kentucky in a conference game this year, a 50-47 triple overtime win. Middle's team is built on speed. They play confident at home. Those would be the two biggest, I think, that you could maybe make some correlation to, but neither of those teams is built in the way that BYU is built from a size standpoint, that kind of thing. So it is a different animal.
Okay.
But I think just home atmosphere, being on your own campus, your own folks, coming through on Raider Walk during the tailgate time, and a lot of things like that. I just think that they have a lot of pride and a lot of confidence in playing in their own house, just like any other program does, and having. While I mentioned some of the non-conference games that we have played here, Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, Minnesota, Virginia. Virginia wins on a last-second field goal. Minnesota wins by 7. Mississippi State was about a 2-touchdown game. So, there have been some close calls. They have not had that Power 6 conference win at home, but other than Maryland, did beat Maryland here a few years ago. And beat Maryland 2 years in a row, beat Vandy 3 years in a row. So they've had some wins, but none of them have really fallen in that last 7 to answer your question, but they've been there.
Chip Walters, play-by-play voice of Middle Tennessee on BYU Sports Nation. Talked a lot about what the Blue Raiders can bring to the field on Saturday. Where's the biggest question mark? Where have they struggled this year, Chip?
They have struggled somewhat in. It's funny because I'm still trying to process this through my head. When you look at scores of games these days, and over the last couple of years, I guess since the advent of the spread offense, I'm still trying to be able to compute and figure out, when you look at all these unbelievable yardage numbers of that kind of thing, it's come. I finally come to a conclusion that what you give up yardage-wise has no effect anymore. It's all about points.
Yeah.
And because Middle gives up a ton of yards, but they've been very good in the blue zone, in the sense that only 20. They've given up 31 scores, 31 out of 37 in the blue zone, but only 20 have been touchdowns. So just barely over 50% have been touchdowns. So they have bent but not broken. I guess where the vulnerability is, they have given up a few big plays. Marshall was able to go over the top. Been pretty decent against the run, but the big play over the top is where they've had some vulnerability, because you did lose 2 corners that were on NFL rosters earlier from last year's squad, and so you've got that, and really, again, because of the way offenses are, if you can get a little more traditional offense to face with Middle's defense, they can put some pressure on the quarterback and have guys that can do that. But the problem is, with these offenses these days, the quarterbacks get rid of the ball so fast that nobody can get pressure anymore.
Hey, Chip, great to talk to you. I appreciate the insight into Middle Tennessee football. Also, the must-hit restaurants in the area. Look forward to talking with you on Saturday.
Well, when you get into town Friday, give me a buzz. You've got my cell number, and I'll give you a couple of other under-the-radar places.
All right.
There you go.
The Insider's Edge.
There
Chip,
you go.
nice to talk to you. Thanks so much.